BingX, a trusted global crypto exchange. Trade spot, futures, or copy top traders easily. Sign up via the link or referral code to get 30 USDT instantly, plus up to 1,500 USDT in bonuses for verification, deposit, and trading.
US and China agree framework for trade deal ahead of Xi-Trump meeting. The United States and China have forged a significant framework for a potential trade agreement. A development that arrives just days before President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping are set to convene. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin announced on Sunday that this accord, reached on the sidelines of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, summit in Malaysia, aims to dismantle the looming threat of 100% tariffs on Chinese imports that were scheduled to take effect on November 1. Crucially, the framework reportedly includes provisions for a definitive resolution regarding the sale of the popular video sharing app TikTok within the United States. President Trump arrived in Malaysia on Sunday, marking the initial stop of a 5-day diplomatic tour across Asia. This journey is widely anticipated to culminate in a highly anticipated face-to-face encounter with President Xi in South Korea on Thursday. Following the high-level discussions in Malaysia, the American president expressed an optimistic outlook, stating, "I think we're going to have a deal with China." Secretary Mnuchin further elaborated that China has committed to a 1-year delay on imposing export controls on critical minerals. These minerals, essential components in the manufacturing of fighter jets, smartphones, and electric vehicles, had been a significant point of contention. The delay is seen as a key element in this evolving truce. China's chief trade negotiator, Li Chunggong, confirmed that both parties have achieved a preliminary consensus and will now proceed with their respective internal approval processes to finalize the agreement. Li described the negotiations as intense, stating, "The U.S. position has been tough. We have experienced very intense consultations and engaged in constructive exchanges in exploring solutions and arrangements to address these concerns." Adding to the atmosphere of potential de-escalation, there are also hopes for a truce between the United States and Brazil, following what Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva termed a positive meeting with President Trump in Malaysia. Both nations' teams are reportedly set to begin discussions immediately concerning tariffs and other bilateral trade matters. This burgeoning agreement between the US and China significantly diminishes the likelihood of an all-out global trade war, a conflict that had cast a shadow over automotive production across Europe and the United Kingdom. The development comes after months of escalating trade tensions between the world's two largest economies, tensions that were notably ignited by President Trump's announcement of the Liberation Day tariffs in April. With the existing tariff truce nearing its expiration, President Xi had previously demonstrated a firm stance against capitulating to threats of 100% tariffs. Instead, China had intensified pressure on the U.S. by imposing controls on exports of rare earth minerals, including magnets, a vital component for sophisticated automotive functions like electronic window and boot opening systems. President Trump had accused Beijing, which dominates global rare earth production and refining, of becoming very hostile and attempting to hold the world captive. Furthermore, China had significantly impacted the U.S. agricultural sector by halting purchases of American soybeans, a commodity for which China is the largest customer, historically accounting for half of all U.S. soybean exports. Secretary Mnuchin conveyed to reporters that a very successful framework is in place for the leaders to deliberate upon during their upcoming meeting. He expressed anticipation that the tariff truce with China will be extended beyond its November 1 expiry date. Mnuchin also projected that China will resume substantial purchases of U.S. soybeans, a move that would greatly benefit American farmers, particularly after the complete cessation of purchases in September, when China sourced its supply from Brazil and Argentina. He assured that U.S. soybean farmers will feel very good about what's going on both for this season and the coming seasons for several years, once the full terms of the deal are publicly disclosed. Jamieson Greer, the U.S. trade representative, indicated that both sides have agreed to a pause on certain punitive measures and have identified a path forward where we can have more access to rare earths from China. We can try to balance out our trade deficit with sales from the United States. Tensions between Brazil and the United States had also escalated in August when President Trump implemented a significant increase in tariffs on most Brazilian goods, raising them from 10% to 50%. In a social media post following their meeting, President Lula stated that both nations agreed that our teams will meet immediately to advance the search for solutions to the tariffs and sanctions against Brazilian authorities. President Trump had previously linked these tariff actions to what he characterized as a witch hunt targeting Jair Bolsonaro, Brazil's former president.